Hello everyone and welcome back to The Letter. In the last episode we switched perspectives once again from Rebecca to Ashton. And
you got us out of the library without getting us killed?
Yeah.
That's important to point out.
That was true. We did not die in the library, which is on my list of places to not die. So I'm excited because they started us off at the party, so we're pretty far along in terms of
like
dates. Yeah. And hopefully we'll get some good information about this. All right, let's find out what kind of game the chief is playing. I've had an inkling before, a few hunches tempered down by how much of a bumbling fool the man appears.
About
One
the
does not.
Inspector? You talking about the inspector?
Yeah.
Ooh, so he thinks he's an idiot.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, he is kind of an idiot.
Well, I think so too, but
yeah.
Now that I know that, okay, sorry.
Makes more sense, yeah. But one does not simply deal with the rights and get invited to a party they host without wanting anything from either of those two. Or it's the other way around. So with a last wary glance at the two, I head into the ballroom. I just hope this will not complicate things further. Shit. By the time the party's in full swing, night has fallen, yet there still isn't a Luke Wright in sight. The man can be quite ostentatious, but this, frankly, I'm impressed. I don't even know how many hors d'oeuvres I've already stuffed my face with.
Oh, that looks gross.
Yeah, I'll pass.
Take the wine.
Yeah. No. Bad.
No wine for me. You can drink 2 glasses though.
All right, deal.
Both of them.
Seems fair. One too many, probably. The server's already giving me a stink eye every time I saunter over to the buffet table.
What? They're made to be eaten.
Yeah, blame your employer, not me. He's the one who has the guts to show up late. Besides, most of the guests' idle talk is concentrated in this area. Despite standing under the same roof with the very people they're whispering about, some just couldn't resist. Might as well keep an ear out for any useful info.
Is Suarez still fixing that tech problem?
I don't know who's Suarez.
Suarez, that's Kylie's parents.
Oh, okay.
Tech problem.
It's been 3 years. Sooner or later, the blighter will put 2 and 2 together.
He might have already.
If the red tape I'm being slammed with these past few months suggests anything, that or someone has been pulling the strings. I wouldn't be shocked. This case would not have gone this long if Scumbag didn't have a mule of some kind in the force.
Shush you, we all know Suarez just wants an out.
Oh.
I knew he was bad news the day the merger with Evans Incorporated happened.
Fair. Glad I did not have to deal with that.
But keep it down, someone might hear. The wife especially.
This kind of negligence has always been an advantage, but sometimes I wish I could be smashed drunk while doing this. Having sharp ears also means you get to hear the most unsavory things. Who cheated on who this week? One person's motive for bashing someone's skull against a wall, or a father's excuse for burning his own daughter alive, that sort of stuff.
Wait,
what? Those are all way too specific not to have happened. Ugh. After a few years, it gets tiring, you get desensitized to it. But humans could also be downright awful. Sometimes there simply isn't enough brain bleach in the world. Sadly, the wine is a no-go tonight, and mostly for show. I'm up for another drive later, for one, and I definitely want to be sober in case anything comes up. And something always comes up in assignments like this. A detective inspector dying of cardiac arrest, for example. What?
Oh, so the old inspector died of cardiac arrest?
Apparently. Because I can feel...
It is the mob.
Yeah. Cardiac arrest. Because I can feel the moment my heart grinds to a halt the second I shift my eyes to a corner of the ballroom.
Hannah Wright.
Some will say I'm acting a touch bit paranoid, and maybe I am. This is a party and she's the hostess. It goes to say that she'd take time to mingle with her guests. But Hannah Wright, nee Evans, isn't without her fair share of accolades. At least to the public, she doesn't seem like it. Unlike her husband, she's the one with the business sense, not to mention the impressive track record needed to manage a company. Or effectively hide whatever irregularity there might be. She's clean as far as my agents and I have found, but that doesn't rule out the possible involvement with whatever her husband's up to. Even with Z-Man's personal opinion of the woman, there are certain gut feelings you really couldn't shake off. Hell, Luke Wright came out clean in previous reports until I bothered to take a deeper look into it. What I've found may not be sufficient to bring anyone to trial yet, but it's enough to nurture suspicion. This may be a bit of an overreaction, but no one lasts long in my line of work by being careless.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Nothing to be worried about then. She's probably even more careful with appearances than her own husband, having grown up with the spotlight focused on her. Yet, even knowing that, the anxiety has been here since the party started. I brushed off earlier. Who wouldn't feel edgy, right? I've gone undercover in a party hosted by the very person I'm investigating. That, in itself, is risky and has plenty of rooms for error.
You didn't kind of disguise yourself either, just letting you know.
Right, you gotta get the glasses with the fake mustache and nose.
And like the trench coat.
Trench coat, get a newspaper, you can peer out of, just stand next to the buffet table, reading, peer out every once in a while.
Fantastic.
Usually, though, the tension passes around the first half hour or so. I've been trained to remain composed in situations like this. However, with each second I spend here, it only grows heavier and seeks to overwhelm. An odd feeling that someone is watching me instead. It has been like this since last week, but I should already be used to this. People would be looking at me no matter how small or big of a blip I am on their radar. That's what they do in these things.
There's something going on in the background in the music.
I think it's supposed to be like whispered chatting.
Is it? To me, it sounds like the dead chick.
Maybe. It's like really subtle.
Anyways.
Yeah. But when the feeling of eyes burning into my back lingers not longer than necessary, I even turned up the sound effects too, like quite a bit, to try to pick that stuff up. I've been looking around every now and then to catch the culprit. No luck. And despite my efforts to push the sensation as far down as I could, tiny pinpricks continue to sting the back of my head, and the ghost of a cold touch creeps up my limbs, till my gaze switches back to Rebecca and Hannah Wright. Oh, well, there we go. She stands there, dark-haired and dirty, sticking out like a sore thumb. Didn't... Hannah saw this, too.
Yep.
Because I remember Hannah was about to, like, throw her out. Even so, no one seems to notice. Although she's looking away from me, her mere existence here disturbs. A sense of tunnel vision blinds while I stand stock still and gape at her like my life depends on making sure she stays where she is. I feel trapped in her presence until another guest bumps into me, yanking me out of my stupor. Only then do I realize that I've been holding my breath. Before I can figure out what happened, she's gone. A quick scan of the room yields no sign of her. The party continues as if nothing's amiss. Not really one to judge, but I'm sure someone like that would not have been allowed in a fancy thing like this. What has the security been doing? Are they really that incompetent for someone so distinct to easily get in without notice?
Did you not notice all the blood? That's what you...
It sounded like he only saw the back of her.
Oh, okay.
There should have been an outcry by now, particularly from the host. She's been standing almost an arm's length away from the woman, and yet she simply continues her talk with Rebecca.
Oh, the professor! And your little Becky!
My parents couldn't make it since they're in Scotland right now. And Mom says hi, by the way.
Is there something in the food then that I'm starting to see things? There it is. It couldn't have been the wine, though. I'm every bit as sober as when I first stepped off my car. The hors d'oeuvres?
They're laced.
That seems silly, yeah. Why would anyone want to do that? Why would Luke Wright want to do that? He's fishy, but I couldn't see why he'd think it'd be a good idea to lace the food he'd served in his party.
A little LSD.
Special ingredient.
Special ingredient. Made with confidence.
With someone like Chief Lee on his guest list to boot. He's been linked to narcotics trade, yep. However, that kind of tactic is below him. That much I could tell.
Okay, the narcotics, is he referring to Luke or the inspector?
I think Luke.
Okay.
Unless there's a mass murder waiting to happen here tonight, which I highly doubt.
Could happen.
Maybe so.
What the fuck was that?
But there's no time to look deeper into this, even if I want to. Not when a telling silence comes from upon the room and draws everybody's attention to the main doors of the ballroom.
Here's drunk Luke.
About damn time.
Good evening, ladies and gents.
Oh,
Enjoying
it's just
the party.
been lovely. We're having a great time.
I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the Wright Mansion.
I've been tailing this guy for a while now. Before that, I heard stories from previous officers who tackled this case. none of which are pleasant. Mind, I'm not counting the incident with Professor Clark, yet pleasant is glossing over the gravity of it. While Wright's good at covering whatever shady stuff he's doing, he's shown to be a really rotten guy. At least, that's the case when he thinks none of his peers are around to judge him. I've lost track of how many counts of verbal abuse and harassment cases the guy could be pinned with. Standing in the same room as him doesn't make me want to punch him any less. Actually, they were just stronger, but protocols. My case, first and foremost. My own opinion of the man shouldn't get ahead of my purpose here. If I want to put him in his place, it should be in a court with all proper charges filed against him. And I'll only be able to do that once I gather enough evidence to pin this bastard down.
Welcome, one and all, to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are our ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen. If you would excuse my presumptuousness.
I'm an asshole.
That's the one.
So, enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses, as we only allowed the best to be
It'll look
served.
disgusting.
Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone.
Can I just get some cheese cubes?
Yeah, right. Suppressing my annoyance, I prepare to step away from the crowd. Amidst the cheers and claps, now is as good a time as any to move, to try to find that something that McCullough woman talked about. In the first place, I have no plans to actually shake hands with the slime ball himself. Fake smile is plastered on my face while I pretend to listen to one of the other guests gossiping about him, all while slowly inching out of the ballroom, unfortunately before I could get any further.
Are you feeling ill, Rochelle? Perhaps you need to sit down and...
Rich people only have two ways to resolve their mess. Either they quietly deal with it behind closed doors, or they create an even greater problem out of it and it just blows up in everybody's faces one way or another. Fun.
No! Shut it, you monster! I ain't talking to you! I'm talking to this scumbag over here! You bloody bastard standing there with your smile.
What?
Looks like he's smiling right there.
No, and I don't understand, like... Johannes has a hand on her. I don't know why he wouldn't drag her out.
Oh, I just realized he's there.
Yeah. Not even a few seconds in, and this is already proving itself to be a big public spectacle. Why spend money on a television to buy daytime soap operas? You could just go to one of these parties and see the action unfold in real time. You get free food, too.
Free food isn't the thing to write home about.
I mean, it has to be good free food.
So.
Really, if I were an actual guest, I'd just take this as some sordid form of amusement.
Watch your tongue. You're on thin ice, Rochelle. Where's your husband? Who even invited you?
But I'm not a guest who's here for a good time. I need to focus on him, even through this whole sorry tale. So I wait, I listen, I observe. Interesting, isn't it though? That's the chief inspector's wife. ... Oh, we're already on like the next day. That was fast.
So we slept on Rebecca's couch.
Yes. The morning after starts off quiet. Even the whole of Salem Well residences seems unusually still. The open hallway when I step out is devoid of tenants. No sound coming from the other units either. It's almost as if something's brewing on the horizon.
Death and destruction?
That's the one.
Mayhem?
Death and mayhem. A peaceful night's sleep still does wonders for the mood, though. I can't even remember the last time I slept without anything urgent interrupting. It's a nice break from all the bad news lately. If it wasn't for the insistent buzzing in my pocket waking me up, I'd sleep in. The ringing has stopped before I can move somewhere private, but sleep has also been effectively kicked out of my system by then. Pity, I could use a little more rest until I have to face the other storm. Of course, I owe Rebecca an explanation. It doesn't matter if it's the whole truth or another hastily spun tale. Although I haven't really figured out how to go about this yet. Unlike Zach and Isabella, who don't usually ask questions and are content with what little I could share, Rebecca's rather quick on the trigger. It'll have to be set aside for later, though.
Sup, I'm Ash from D-Lux City.
Forgot about this.
Watch out, can't beat me. Looking for trouble? Better not lie. I'm a cool dude. Pretty fly for an
love
Asian
his
guy.
rink.
Sup, I'm Ash from D-Lux City. Baggers, watch out, can't
The
beat
chief's
me.
name
Looking
stares
for
back at me
trouble?
almost as
Better
if it's
not lie.
mocking me.
I'm a cool dude. Pretty fly for an Asian guy.
Sad.
Sup, I'm Ash from
It would have been
D-Lux
nice just to
City.
chill after
Baggers,
last
watch
night, or
out,
maybe
can't
have
beat
listened
me.
to the
Looking
news.
for trouble? Better not
Sure,
lie.
it's the same
I'm a
thing we've
cool
been
dude.
hearing lately.
Pretty fly
Still
for an
beats
Asian
standing
guy.
outside in the chilly Luxford morning on the phone with my boss. I
This
can't.
should be so funny, but it is.
Better not lie. I'm a cool
I think
dude. Fly for an Asian guy.
I think it's the beginning that's just like, what?
Baggers, watch out. Can't beat me.
Sighing, I answered, if only to get this over with.
I'm a cool
He's like
dude.
Batman of this city. That's all I can think of him.
Frey, where are you right now?
Now, that's a tone I didn't expect from him at this hour. Just thinking how this will go already gives me a headache. Immediately, I reach up and pinch the bridge of my nose to stave it off.
This is why I won't ever drink myself senseless.
What was that?
Nothing, Chief. A pleasant morning to you too.
He's probably calling to rag on me or complain about his wife, which is really none of my business unless it affects my case. It seems like the usual rich man cheats on wife deal. Although I would have followed up on it if it were somebody else's wife. But figuring it's the chief's, hey, I trust him to come clean if the missus is related to the right shady dealings. This is why I left before they even hauled the woman out last night. I'm not going to go around investigating cheating husbands and wives when it's probably just that. Chief appears to have a different idea in mind, though.
There's nothing pleasant in the
Ooh,
morning.
grumpy.
Anyway, where are you? I told you millions of times before to keep your lines open.
I did.
Yeah.
You called.
He did, and not only him. Zach, Rebecca, Isabella, all of them have said the same thing numerous times in the past. But I was undercover last night. A phone call is the last thing I want to happen when there are other things I need to focus on at the
Because
time.
of your ringtone.
Right,
dumbass,
very distinct.
Put it on like mute or vibrate.
Yeah. Besides, we have radios and work-issued phones. Why isn't he using those channels if this is urgent?
Just woke up, sir. As awesome as it is to hear your voice this morning, it really is early. If you could give me a few minutes just to wake myself up, that'd be swell.
No need for that. This won't take long.
Is something wrong? Am I needed at the precinct ASAP?
Oh no, everything's good over there. Just look, kid. Frey, don't take this personally.
We fired.
alright? You're off the Luxborn firm case. Starting today.
Well, I did not expect to hear that either. This must be some kind of cosmic joke. I allow some awkward seconds to pass. Chief must be pulling another one of his awful pranks. Out of his bad mood or a severe hangover, maybe? Everyone knows that when given the chance, he exercises no control with his drinking. If it wasn't for his wife causing a stir, he'd probably be trashed an hour at the party. He likely drank more after they threw her out of the ballroom. Besides, his sense of humor has never been good. It's just infuriating most of the time. But when he doesn't follow it up, if I sound a tiny bit frustrated speaking to my own superior, I'm not the one to blame.
Wait, no. What? Are you kidding, Chief? Is this one of your practical jokes again? The temps won't say anything about it, but
It's not that. They're orders. From the higher-ups.
Ah, the higher-ups, yes, my favorite word. Since when do the higher-ups ever care about what the criminal investigation department did?
If they're rich bastards that are in Luke's pocket, they care.
Yeah. As far as I could tell, they don't give a hoot if CID is filled with cold cases as long as we keep the spending low. When I need to view those old case files, though, they're locked away in the archives. You're going to have to check with the higher-ups. I need access to these reports, see if the higher-ups would allow it. Every step, every move in this case, there isn't one that hasn't been gated by some authority. If it's not the chief, it's the commissioner, or so they always tell me. It makes me wonder why they even bother assigning it to anyone. Not a single one of them has done anything to help move the case. And they wonder why it has taken this long for even a hint of progress to show.
you can't just drop this on me. You can't just take me off like that.
Yes, I can. And I'm sorry, Ashton. You're a good detective. One of the best I've seen in years, but...
3 years, Chief. 3 years.
3 years since that anonymous tech leak blew up. Since Luke Wright's name was openly linked to several nasty dealings within Luxborn's corporate world, some of them involving deaths. 3 years, and I was the only one who made it this far, made much progress that officers with more experience weren't able to do when they handled this case. Just within a year, and with barely any help from the damn brass at that. Of course I'll be pissed.
Do you know what would have happened if I didn't work my ass off on this thing? If I didn't dedicate a whole year of my time on it, it would have gone cold, like every fucking case Luke Wright has been linked to. I saved this from getting thrown into the archives, sir. I'm getting close. If you could just...
I'm fully aware of what you've done, Frey. But the Commissioner hasn't been happy with your progress. Still too slow by their standards.
Too slow? Well, what about those reports I filed? I've documented every freaking thing for them. I've given you every important lead I can gather. Isn't that enough?
They need results, not a bunch of research papers. Not one baseless assumption after another. Concrete proof, Frey. I'm really sorry. They've already made a decision. They're going to pass this on to someone who's been in the force longer.
You?
Someone who has more experience.
Someone who has more experience?
They meant nothing by it, but you're still too young to work on a case this big.
Chief, I've already done more than what those old farts ever did behind their desks. All of it, within just a year of being assigned to this.
Watch your language, Frey. Those are your superiors,
I'm not some damn rookie fresh out of training. I'm as qualified as they are.
Doodle, I know it is. They never say it within my earshot, but from the very minute I stepped into their precinct, a lot of them had underestimated me. From their stares alone to the assignments I get. To them, I'm still just a kid, too young, too green, too inexperienced. And once they pull that card on me, every argument I have gets thrown out the window. No matter how logical it is, how much I've accomplished, what the records say, or the amount of work I put in every investigation they've thrown my way.
We're all aware of your skills, kid. You wouldn't have that badge and rank if you weren't good enough. However, this case is just not for you. Too high profile, too risky to put a good officer like you in harm's way.
Can he even hear himself? The reasoning is odd in itself. No one joins this line of work without knowing the dangers of it.
Don't I get a second chance? You said it yourself. I'm a good detective. It'll just be a matter of time before we can close this.
It doesn't matter what I think, Frey. You're off the case, and that's final. I expect all related files and documents on my desk by Monday morning. And don't even try to go touch anything. I know how hard-headed and determined you are.
Chief, please. A few more weeks. I'll have the proper evidence left on your desk by then. I swear it won't take longer than that.
Fred, it's too late, boy. I've already informed the other officers. You aren't to be allowed access until you've been given a new assignment. Hell, just keep out of the precinct, Frey. Take the weekend off.
Seriously, Chief, is this about last night? If this is about me being at that party, I have a good reason for—
You were at the party.
Oh no! We'll just have to see.
No, why would you do that? You're an idiot.
Oh. We'll just have to see how much worse this gets for our friend Ashton in the next episode. Oof. That is rough. Too bad. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.